We'll have a little bit of a discussion, and then we'll throw out questions, take your questions from the floor, and we'll have 2 roving microphones. And because we're recording today, we really want to hear your questions. So when you put up your hand, if you can wait until the microphone gets to you, and we'll hear it. I'm going to actually sit down. Wendy, if you move up in the bed there, we'll be a bit cozier. Megan, if I can start off with you, you were talking about the climate action policy and the work with the Arts Council, and the necessity then to have everything, all your ducks lined up in a row in regard to that. Are there other organisations, in particular in regard to events organisers, that are going to have that sort of criteria that's going to be a must? You won't get your funding unless you're all organised.
Yeah, great question. And this has come up actually with the work that we're doing in the discovery phase for the training that we're rolling out for the Arts Council, specifically around festivals, because festivals are funded both by the Arts Council and by Fáilte Ireland in the Republic. And the feedback from the festivals was, if we're going to be required to submit environmental action policies and plans to both entities, wouldn't it make sense if they were the same kind of reporting requirements, because otherwise we're going to be double jobbing and we don't have the resources to do that. And because of where we're positioned now, where we're working in with a number of these different types of entities, we're in a position to bring that back, to start to see if we can get that joined up thinking at the top. But in answer to your question, I think yes, funders, investors, sponsors are going to really start looking for this and looking for that environmental action sustainability plans, because it's coming as part of that CSRD directive as well. So it's trickling down to pretty much everybody. Yeah.
You showed the desert and then you showed the cacti growing. Has it been difficult to sell that sustainability, or is it because people are now compelled through the legislation and that they have jumped on board?
Excuse me, it was difficult in the beginning when we were wandering around in the desert and there wasn't really anybody else doing very much in the space. I mean, we founded Native Events out of frustration, to be honest, because we were trying to bring more sustainable practices to the events and festivals that we worked with, and the infrastructure didn't exist. The knowledge and experience and mentorship didn't really exist on the island, so we just kind of got started and got stuck in. But what has seemed to have happened since the Great Pause is that there is far more awareness for this type of thing. I think people have cottoned on that our environment is, in fact, fragile, and that we do need to protect ourselves and protect our world. So we're starting to push on open doors now, but there is still a little bit of resistance in terms of a perceived cost for event organisers, for cultural institutions, for creative industries. And I suppose what we're also starting to see in response to that is people starting to realise the opportunity of coming together to share assets, to collectively buy things that they can share together. A piece that we've recently done with St. Patrick's Festival is a great example of this. They got themselves a little bit of capital funding. They've bought a suite of batteries and solar that they're going to use at Collins Barracks next weekend. Can't believe it's so soon. And then the idea behind that is that they will then have that facility to lend to other festivals in Dublin so that they can start reducing their generator use as well. So there's a little bit of caution around it still, but we're starting to push past that barrier, I think.
Wendy, you had a successful initiative there, it seems. How difficult was it to get the council itself to buy in to the idea of sustainability in the way that yourself and Sharon portrayed there?
It wasn't actually that difficult. It's difficult initially because you've got members of staff and team members who say, it's never going to work. What are you bothering doing that for? But we got the right team behind us and we got the support, and it means as much to them as it does to us. The council overall is delighted that we are doing this and we're pushing the comms message out and getting the public involved with us as well along the way. So it really has been great.
And in regard to that communication, how vital is that for not just the people who go to the festivals, but also the vendors, the food sellers, the stalls?
It's very important. And, when you're talking there about trying to get other organisers to get involved with the sustainability and them saying it costs so much, you have to sort of nurture people along the way. And the first year that we insisted that our traders used compostable material, we actually bought it for them and give it to them. So it's about taking people on the journey, and we will do the same thing with the sustainable things. So Gemma there manages a lot of different grant-aided events, and we will be asking them to up their game. But again, we're going to have to help them along the way. So we won't, the story they say to us, oh, you give us £5,000 and you want 3 of that back in health and safety or sustainability. So it's about us saying, we're going to make this a wee bit easier for you, but here's how we'd like you to do it. So I think that's the sort of way that we will need to work.
So you'll be the guide, the leader, but also the guide in that sense. Could I get a microphone back to Sharon? Thanks, Anne. In regard to you standing at the bins and being chief inspector, what sort of negative response, or was there any negative response in what you were doing?
Yeah, we did have some negativity. I think when it comes to recycling, it is a bit of a minefield for people, and it is trying to educate people and encourage them to be using the correct containers. I would say the biggest issue we came across whenever we were carrying out the events was the fact that, for example, one event we were standing about 6 feet away from a litter bin, and standing just smiling and telling everybody what bin to use, and literally there was people just walking straight past and going straight to the litter bin. So from that we were able to say, oh, we need to be thinking of something there in terms of almost taking people by the hand and saying, no, this is what we need to do, this is where you need to go. And as Wendy said, just bringing them with us, encouraging them and showing them how easy it can be, and how it's about educating them as well and telling them why we're doing this. There is a reason that we're recycling, and it is for the future. So really, once we learned what the problem was, coming up with a solution in terms of the covers for the litter bins, then really it was bringing people on board and seeing how simple it was just to communicate with us and use the correct container. Thanks,
Sharon. Pamela, I've been to the Balmoral show and I've seen those big bins. The perception for some people will be, okay, yours is a business, a commercial organisation, but you're throwing everything into the one bin, and you don't have that separation that we heard Sharon. Is that a difficulty in regard to the perception of recycling?
I suppose different organisations that we've worked with and different events, perception is one thing. What we can do behind the scenes is totally different. So with the Balmoral show, for example, last year we trialled out, because they had done away with their single-use plastics, and they had encouraged their vendors to use tin soft drinks. We put in bins specifically for tins, and put the signage around them to say tins only and whatnot. But we're very much of an understanding that kids go to bins. As you have rightly pointed out, kids run to the bins, or people are going to an event, they're going to enjoy it as well. They want to know that their waste is being handled correctly, but that's not at the forefront of their mind. The forefront of their mind is to go to an event and enjoy it. And we try and make that as easy as possible for the events that we work with, especially like the likes of the Balmoral show, where we give them the option to recycle, but they can also use a mixed waste bin. But our infrastructure at RiverRidge is set up very different to maybe what local authorities are set up. Just because we're a private organisation, all of our general waste bins still come back to our facilities. Everything's processed, everything's treated. So what we mean by that is all the recycling is extracted, and we just have different machines and different infrastructure set up within our, what we call our MRFs, that can extract that recycling firsthand. So we can do that for our events and for our commercial customers, and that's what we do. We try and encourage the recycling first, but at events we sort of we try our best to encourage, and we'll support whatever ethos the event is wanting to push. But for ease of mind for the event, we can let them put it into a general waste bin, and we will do the sorting for them. But we'll still be able to give them their diversion from landfill. We'll be able to give them their weights and their data and reports as to what we have done for them. So we take the stress out of it for them, and that's what we have found. I suppose the larger event that we done a couple of years ago, the Open down in Royal Portrush, they were very much at putting in the 3 different bins, for food waste, for recycling, and for general waste. And after probably 2 hours within the event, we realised that everything is the same waste. It doesn't matter what you put on the front of the bin. When you have crowds of that quantity coming through and trying to put rubbish into bins, and at that specific event, they're following their favourite golfer, so they go to the bin and they throw the waste into the bin and they run and follow the golf down the course. And the perception maybe is there, you're trying to support it and you're trying to push it with the event. But the reality is that maybe it's not always adhered to, but we're there to support the event in the background. And that's
Have you found more and more of your customers, especially those involved in events and festivals, are wanting to set out their criteria in regard to sustainability and for you to match that for them?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of people that want to push recycling, want to reduce single-use plastics and want to reduce their waste and want to show their weights and measures. And a lot of events that we would work with, you know, will ask us to benchmark their waste, and then we would then look at it year on year to see if we can see a reduction in that, and we're able to present that to them. But yeah, absolutely, they want to reduce what's happening on site and want to push their own ethos and their own culture. And it is just a change in culture because people are segregating their waste in their households, and it's just bringing that to the forefront that when they go out into public events, that they should also still follow that same ethos.
Wendy, the dirty word of money. You mentioned it, and you know there are so many different events and festivals and community events that don't have the backing of a council that you have. How can you encourage those people that they can have a successful event and still have that sustainability plan?
Well, we will get them to go through the checklist that we've put together, so they've got that tool. But we are looking at other things, like I've been working with Sharon's team again. We're looking at getting some small vehicles that could be towed to those events that would have the recycling on them. We're working with the local college to see if they can get their mechanical engineering team to convert a vehicle that's already there. So it is something that they can have. It is something we're still working on ourselves. We're trying to encourage, for example, some of our bigger events to have the cover up the bins and have recycling points. Most of these events have volunteers coming out of their ears anyway. So Sharon has offered to train those volunteers so that they can say, right, that's the different bins that you need to use. So that's the sort of way we're looking forward. Encouragement, assistance, training. Those would be the ways.
Megan, is that the common problem, I suppose, in your experience across festivals and events? It's the waste reduction, the waste management. Are there any other things that you think that people here could do to help?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different impact areas of events, and there's loads more to explore. But that problem of money and trying to understand what you can do with limited resources does come up quite a lot. And I think the response to that really is just to start doing the same amount of work, but just having that decision-making being taken through a different lens. So instead of literally just sitting down and going, well, this is the way I've always done it, start to embed the idea of sustainability, add it as an agenda item onto every meeting, include it as a line on everybody's job description. I am, in every single job on this event, part of the climate action for this event. And that way you start to spread the responsibility a little bit, you start to get a little bit more embedding of it into the organization, into the event, into the team, into the crew. Everybody starts to buy into it and feel that they have contributed to it. You know, I just wanted to say as well, number one, 90% is fantastic. I've never heard a recycling rate like that before, so well done. And it is that engagement piece is really key when tackling waste. And I'm also really curious, can you actually do reports of all the different streams that come off an event?
Depending on what way we set it up. Yeah. So if it's general waste, we can...
Sorry to be jumping in and asking questions, but I'm really curious.
We're all learning here.
Say for the Balmoral show that set up their bins last year for just tin cans only, so we can report exactly on how many not how many tins, but the volume of waste that comes off in terms of that. Okay. If it's single stream and it's waste segregated on site, then absolutely, yeah, waste and reports can come off. With regards to diversion from landfill, yep, we can do that. We can do a visual analysis on the total amounts that come off, so yeah, we can.
That's really unusual. That's great. Well done.
Okay, I think we'll open it up to the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got 2 microphones. So if you could put up your hand. I know there are a few burning questions amongst you all. Put up your hand, one at the front here. And we'll get a microphone to you. And if you'd like to introduce yourself to the panel and give us your question as well. There you go. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Ed Lindsay from Finneborough Woods and also Magna Carta, so we supply teepees into various events. I'm surprised at when you had your pie chart with the impact that waste had on the the total CO2 tonnage. I'm surprised that's so low. Without going into mega technical stuff, could you give us sort of very quick sort of synopsis of how that actually works? I thought the waste would be a much bigger impact on the CO2 production.
Yeah. The simple answer to that is that waste processing is a very efficient process in terms of energy use. There has been a huge amount of technical advancements in that space in Ireland and across the EU, but particularly in more recent years. So where the impacts of these events are happening is far higher in the transport space than it is in essentially in waste processing. Yeah, like events create a lot of waste, and this is the really key piece, because waste is a huge issue in terms of the plastic pollution problem. And plastics leaking into our environment and leaching into our waters and leaching into our soils and actually in our bloodstream now is a massive, massive problem. But in terms of when we're looking at just carbon emissions, it's that little bit smaller. But that also teaches us that we can't just look at the environmental issues that we have through one kind of lens. And we need to take a far more systems and holistic kind of view of it to try and tackle all of those wicked problems, I guess.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Am I allowed a second?
You go ahead. Oh, as many as you like. You have the floor.
Pamela, we use a waste. So my second hat is we've got a venue at home, and part of that is actually a cafe and a farm shop, and we produce quite a lot of waste on it. So our local provider, and we've got our bins, our plastic, tin and general waste bins, and they come along, and we, at the end of the day, we lift the 3 black bags out, and they all go into an 1,100 litre bin out the back and go into the same lorry. And I've had it out with our suppliers saying, and they say, "Oh, don't worry, the robots do it back at the ranch," da da da, and I don't particularly trust that process, and I feel we can be doing an awful lot more, but I'm going, where do we go to get that sort of, I suppose, to take it to the next level? Because what we're doing is just painting a little pretty picture, but actually in reality, I don't think we're doing anything of much use at all. So if we are giving you one bin liner, can you actually properly segregate that rubbish and recycle it from one bag?
And I think there are a lot of people who would be doubters, could I just say that? I think the media also exposes that. So there are doubters, and maybe we hear contaminated refuse as well. So have you an answer there?
Yeah, absolutely. The way RiverRidge are set up, we have got different MRFs, and MRFs are what we call our material recovery facilities. So our MRF in Mollusk in Belfast is driven by just dry mix recycling, which is all your recyclable materials. Now, we don't necessarily need our customers to have a bin specifically for cardboard, a specific bin for paper. We can do all that, and we do have the infrastructure in place to be able to segregate that waste. Now, we prefer that waste to come in quite loose in a bin, so the same way you would use your blue bin at home, you throw your waste in loose, so that we don't have to essentially break bin liners. So it goes through different machines like eddy currents to retrieve which is a magnet that retrieves your tin cans and your aluminiums. It'll go through hand sorting stations and things like that. So that'll extract your recycling. But that's kind of source segregated, what we look at. The general waste, maybe what you're referring to, which is the black bin liner, we do. We have absolutely got the infrastructure, and our main facility is actually based in Garva, just outside Coleraine, and it's a massive facility, and it's an open book for us. We can invite people to come in and have a look. It's a working factory, so you just come in and it's waste at the end of the day. It's not very glamorous, but you can come in and have a look. We've got YouTube videos to show you what actually happens. So when the waste comes in, and we take waste and black bin waste from local authorities, so Causeway Coast and Glens bring us in their black bin materials, so do Derry City and Strabane Council, but we also have our own commercial customers. So the first initial thing that we do is when black bin waste comes in is it goes through a massive shredder where all the bin liners are broken up and the waste then becomes loose. It goes through, again, eddy currents where the aluminiums in the tin cans are extracted, and it goes through intense processes like that. It goes through machines where the light plastics are identified at high speed and they're blown off the belts. We then put our waste through, because we understand that there's still a massive amount of organic content going into general waste, which is your food wastes. It goes through a washing facility. So we have a state-of-the-art washing plant. So we wash our waste, believe it or not. And when you wash the waste, the organic content sinks to the bottom. and we take that out and we use that, we extract that food content. So we can identify that. We then have a state-of-the-art drying facility, which resembles like an air hockey table. So it's a large platform with lots of jets of air coming up through it, where we bounce the waste across and dry it back down to get the calorific value of the waste, which we refer to, back down to a product again. The waste is then shredded, so then we've taken all that dirt and that grime out of your general waste. So we then get a product out of it, which then becomes our fuel, which we then can take back to our gasification facility back up the road in Belfast and put it through that intense process again. So I can talk with confidence that we definitely have the infrastructure to do it. It is very much robotic, because that's the most cost-efficient way that we can do things. But yeah, there's a massive process that we have. Now, we're very lucky in RiverRidge because we have had good investment over the years, that we have been able to, increase our productivities on site, put in better infrastructure, put in better machines so that we can get a better product out of it. There's lots of companies that just don't have that, and it's not to say that they're worse than us, they just don't have the right infrastructure. But we have, that was our goal, to get a full circular economy where we can take waste, and the waste that others can't do anything with, which is your clear recyclables and your easily recyclable products. We can take that waste out and still do something else and make another product out of it, which is where we get the gases for that. Full circle as well within RiverRidge. We harvest our own gases. We're very much full circle in our own plants, so we generate our own electricity on site. So all our machines are, either electric machines. We've now got our first skip lorry. We're the first company in Northern Ireland to have an electric skip lorry. We've got a couple of Arctic lorries now, which are full electric. We've changed a lot of our company cars to full electric, tried the hybrid, and then they're now phasing in the full electric. So we're trying to really commit to that ethos of sustainability and carbon, reductions as well. So yeah, we do have the infrastructure, and we're trying to strive. And if you have a look at our ESG report, our commitment is there for the next 5 to 10 years as to where we're striving to, even further than that as well.
So I suppose it's picking some supplier that suits your needs. Is it in the middle there? Thank you. Thanks for your question. If we could just identify yourself. Hello.
Hi, how are you? Andrew Dugan from Yellow Door and Hospitality Belfast, but I'm probably more of a support to Ed's point and more on your point, Donna, to Pamela and ICC. I have some colleagues over here from the ICC are now nervous that I've got a mic. I just want, on that point, I said, well, obviously the ICC in terms of business tourism, and we're here for a tourism event. And one of the most regular, and hopefully Laurel and guys are nodding their head when I'm saying this, one of the most regular, and RiverRidge, you're our provider, and we have audited you, and I'm happy to, regardless of that natural doubt that's there about you're sending a generic bin, but the perception of the tourists, they want to see the waste separated. So it's to the point where we're nearly having to separate the waste to put it back into one bin. Which to me doesn't make sense, because that's costing you labour down the line, surely. And I totally accept everything that you're doing is right, but we're having to have this conversation continuously in the international business market. No, we do separate the waste. We do all that good stuff that Pamela has said, but from a perception for a tourist, if we're not making it very obvious and we're not making it very clear, we're not getting the recognition for the work that's being done.
I suppose from RiverRidge's point of view, we're giving you the worst case scenario, and we're trying to give the support to the events. I suppose that we can deal with the waste in whatever form it comes in. In terms of what you want to do, and each event is very individual as to what they want to portray to their clientele that's coming through the doors. And if you want to put out your different bins for your different products, we can absolutely support you with that, and we can send in different bin lorries to collect the different products. And as I've said, if we come to you and we lift, the tin cans and the cardboard and the plastic bottles, if they're at your event, we can take them to one of our facilities where it's a lot more efficient. The process is a lot more efficient because the waste is recyclable, so we can process that a lot quicker for you. So we can still support you with that. We can still collect the waste whatever way it's presented. There's no problem with that. It's just that we can also give the comfort blanket, I suppose, to the event organisers to say, there doesn't need to be pain, for you. We can support you in regardless, and we can still give you the facts and figures. Because with events, and I know over here I've done a fantastic job of standing, and you do have to stand and really babysit people when they come to events, because when they come to a bin, when they send the kids to the bin, or if they're, depending if it's maybe a music festival, and some of the music festivals that we do in Belfast are maybe for teenagers and early 20s and whatnot, and they're out to have a good time, and they just want to, if they put the rubbish in the bin, that's nearly a good thing at times. And we just want to be able to say to them, like, you know, you don't have to put the pain into it. You know, we can still support you. You can still get your achievement of your landfill diversion. But if you have that culture and you want to push that culture of segregating your waste, then that's fine. But it comes back then to whether they start to contaminate the waste, and then that's when it becomes a problem as well. So if you do have your nice bins for your tin cans, and then somebody comes over at the end of the night and throws in, you know, a gravy chip into the top of it, it ruins that whole waste, you know, and it just takes for one person, you know, to do that, which you know, can destroy what you've done the whole day long. So we just give that comfort blanket that we can still deal with it, I suppose, but we can support.
At the back, and then we'll go to the front here.
Hi, thanks very much, everyone. My name's Aideen. I work for Think 6 Marketing, but I'm here as kind of a volunteer for a smaller event that seeks grant aid, generally speaking, from a council. That's how it's funded. And it's mainly just to ask if you have any advice on when filling in the application for grant aid, if there's anything that we could be putting forward to try and ask for more support for waste management, like if there's any advice in general just as to what you would do or how you would go about it as a starting point.
When did you want to take that?
I'm going to get Gemma to answer that one. Gemma's our grants expert.
We'll wait and we'll get a microphone to Gemma. Put your hand up there, Jim. Oh, there you go. If you wouldn't mind answering that.
Sorry, say that again, sorry.
Yeah, it was just to get any advice for somebody that is filling in an application to a council to try and get that bit of grant. We always do every year anyway, but to maybe incorporate like waste management and things like that the way that you have, and if there's anything that you would advise us on?
I think I can only answer specifically from Ards and North Down perspective, because I don't know what other councils do. But I know that we have in our application form, we have a specific question on environmental sustainability in general. But we also have an online toolkit on our website that it is being redrafted at the minute, but the current version does talk you through things like how we started. Now, it's not as up to date as what Wendy just presented because, as I say, it's going to be updated, but things like what you would include in your sustainability plan. As I said, it's a question in our application form. That's how basic it is for our council for grants at the minute. I don't know what else I can say on that.
The sustainability toolkit that you were talking about, Megan, would presumably help all of those sort of organisations that are events that are not run by councils or public sector bodies, but maybe rely on volunteers and our community events, and they just need a guide. And that's something that toolkit would provide to them.
Yeah, and I'd even point back to the Sustainable Festival Guidelines, the Fáilte Ireland one that's already out there, because it's designed as a worksheet. So it's simply all of those 7 different impact areas and step-by-step ways of going through those with a little kind of place that you can fill in, like who's going to be responsible for it, when's it going to be done, and what the learnings are to capture it after the event. So referencing those and referencing maybe even 1 or 2 impact areas that you and your team feel confident that you can do is a really good starting point. And I would advise anybody who's just getting started to start really small and get something right the first time out, because that's what gives the team the empowerment and the engagement. It's like, oh, we nailed that. We got to 90% recycling, and then you can start to build the traction and the momentum. Because if you start with way too big aspirations and then things don't really quite work out, it becomes quite demoralizing, I guess. So start small and grow from there.
And in regard to getting grants, if there aren't set criteria by the local council or whatever, having that cool toolkit and ticking those boxes, as many as you can, even on a small scale, as you say, that's bound to help in putting their application forward. Yeah.
I hope so, yeah.
At the front here, Ross.
It's one for you, Megan. It's not really waste reduction, it's more waste efficiency. Toilet waste, human waste, and full circle. What's the landscape like on that?
Great question. We trialled compost toilets at a festival that we did in Westmeath in 2022, 2022. Yeah, we had just emerged from the Great Pause. This was a 5,000 capacity camping festival called Body and Soul, actually the one that signed up to the Green Deal Circular Festivals. And we brought compost loos over from a crowd called Natural Event in the UK. And this had never been done before in Ireland, and it was a big experiment. And the reason being is because we wanted to move towards circularity. We wanted to capture compost. We wanted to return it to an organic process so that we could move away from nasty chemical portaloos, really, because there's a huge amount of carbon emissions that's involved in portaloos and in the production and the chemicals and the wastewater treatment. It was an education, I won't lie, to put it fairly democratically. What was really interesting was that the audience responded to them in loads of different ways. Some people were really up for it. We do have a demographic of Body and Soul that we have trialled initiatives before, and they're into the sustainability journey with us, I guess. Some people were complaining a lot that there was a lot of queues outside. The way that we positioned them, they're supposed to be on a very slight slant so that if they're not occupied, the door opens. Whereas with a portaloo, if they're not occupied, there's a little green thing that you can see. But we didn't do that. One set of them was actually up on a hill. We didn't know when we were building them. So it looked like they were occupied and closed. So people just started queuing outside them for miles instead of just going up and tapping a door to see if it was empty, because there was that little bit of fear around it. And then what we did was we worked with our waste handler, our waste processing partners, and they brought all of the waste to a composting facility. They were able to incorporate as part of the organic waste from the festival, which is in itself is unusual as well, but it was because they were on the journey with us to do a pilot. We weren't able to afford to do it the following year because it was more expensive because of the transport over and back from the UK, but we wanted to do it to show that it could be done. And it can be done, but it's an educational piece, let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, that's we've looked into it in the past, and there is no knowledge up here from the statutories of what can and can't we do with human waste. And I suppose that leans in then within the FELCHA 170 tips or guidelines or whatnot. Mm-hmm. Is that and say, for example, that was within that, how to work with that, and more generally, is that stuff going to be shared up here as well and kind of work both ways? Because I know there's a lot of environmental differences between Scotland, I think Northern Ireland's fallen England, and the whole Brexit, blah, blah, blah.
I would hope so, yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons that we're here today. And I mean, that was kind of the angle that I was trying to do in the presentation that I gave there. Is this is about collaboration. This is about people coming together to trial things, to share things. I mean, in all of those examples that I gave in the development of all of those policies and toolkits and plans, it was about bringing the sector together. And I would see a huge, huge opportunity for us to do that now, north and south as well. I mean, one of the things from the Green Deal for Circular Festival was we were able to take all these learnings from the wider EU, and those festivals are miles ahead in terms of their environmental journeys to what we are here. But we were able to leapfrog those kind of issues and challenges and start doing things and moving things at pace. And we'd like to be able to do that now, where all of ye can learn from the mistakes. For example, the compost loos is a really good one, and I can talk to you some more about the intricacies of that if you have any interest. But I'd love for us to be able to leapfrog again with these kind of collaborations that might come out of events like today.
Let's hear it.
That's happening at departmental level, because if without them...
Yeah. Let's make that happen.
Let's do it.
Any more questions? If not, oh, one more. Thank you. And then we'll take a break for a cup of coffee. All right?
Hello, I'm Jill Robb from Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council, and I'm the events manager there. I was away on the infamous trip to Scotland last year, and was one of those people who went, oh my goodness, we're so far behind, where do you start? And I came away thinking I'm going to do something about power, diesel generators in particular at events. And a year later, I suppose it's been a long journey, but I have got one permanent supply in that would replace a 100 kVA generator that we would use at events. Then I looked at another site where we would have lots of stalls at an event and would have probably about 8 or 9 generators, 8 or 9 diesel generators there. And after 6 or 7 months working with NIE and all the challenges, you know, having to go for planning permission and an extortionate cost for a one-day event, we've given up on that one at this stage. So I've only started to look at battery-powered generators. I suppose this is for you, Megan, and the fear of the reliability.
Can I pause that, and can we do that in the next session, because we're going to be looking at a little bit more about power and those sort of installations in the next session. Have you anything on waste reduction that you'd like to share with us?
I would like to ask Wendy, I suppose again, costs and pressure on events budgets is huge at the minute, and I suppose reduction in funding and increased costs everywhere, and you did note about the costs. In Ards and North Down Council, is this totally absorbed in event budgets, or do you get support through, say, waste management budgets or sustainability budgets? Or
It's a very good question. Heather there was awake all night last night worrying about it. We have just really done the calculations for this year, and everybody's hair stood on end. We are hoping there is a transformation budget in the council, and we're hoping to put forward the argument. This means that we can't, I mean, at the moment, I'm performing at all the events because we can't afford anybody, because all our infrastructure's gone up, our security's gone up, everything's gone up. So we're putting together an argument at the moment to say, look, this is not our fault. Can you help us out here, chums? So that's where we're at the minute. We'll let you know how we get on.
yeah, well, I think that is the challenge. You know, we'd all love to be sustainable, but certainly with events budgets that we're working with, it's very hard.
Well, I can't ever see a time when we would go back to the way it was, though. You know, we've come so far, we've made such big success of what we're doing. We're really pleased with it. Super pleased, aren't we, Sharon? So I can't see how we can't continue that going forward. I don't see what kind of a message that would put out saying, we like that, but we're not going to do it anymore.
As we said earlier, especially those who are funding providers and grants like councils, you have to lead the way. That's the way it is. I think we'll take a break, ladies and gentlemen, for a cup of coffee, stretch your legs. We'll come back at 11:30, but if you hear me at 25 past calling you to order, you'll know that we'll start the next session. But for now, 11:30, all right? And the tea and coffee is served next door. Thank you. Thank you, Fern.